Hello everybody, welcome to St. Olaves Booklet number 8 walkthrough. So we're starting off with the math section with area, and for question 1 we can already start putting in some measurements because we know it's made of a square and a rectangle. This one's clearly the rectangle, so if this one's a square we know all sides are 5, and we can use this 2 centimeters to know this is 2 centimeters. How do we figure out this side? We know that this whole side is made up of this 3 and this 5. So it's 5 plus 3, which is equal to 8 centimeters. The whole thing is 8 centimeters. So using that, we can figure out that this is 25. So the square is equal to 5 times 5, which is equal to 25 centimeters squared. And then we can use that to know 8 times 2 is 16 centimeters squared. How do I find the whole area? We do 25 plus 16, which is equal to 41. And that's the answer. So for 2, we've been giving some important information, and that is that this whole grey region, we know that something has to be taken out. The whole grey region is... So imagine that this was grey, this wasn't taken out. The whole area is 8 times 4, which is 40 centimeters squared, right? But we're being told that when you take this bit out, you get 36 instead. So if the whole area of this is 36, that means the area of this section has to be 4 in order to get 40 minus 4, which is equal to 36. So if we know that this whole region is 4, then let's find out the black area by saying that 6 times 4 is equal to 24. And then when we take this overlapping region out, let's highlight that, it becomes 24 minus 4, which is equal to 20. So for this one, there's a few steps. The whole perimeter of the shape is 88. Now, what does this mean? We know an equilateral triangle means that these sides are all equal. Let me highlight this. So this side is equal to this side, which is equal to that side, which is equal to this side. So using that information, how many sides do we have in total? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's call one of these sides x, and we know 8 sides of these is equal to the whole perimeter, all of them added together, x plus x plus x plus x, etc., is 88. So what does that make one side? 1x is equal to 88 divided by 8, which is equal to 11. So one of these sides is 11. Now, we're not done. It's an equilateral, so all the sides are the same. If this is 11, this is also going to be 11, and we have the sides of our square. So to find out the area, we just have to do 11 times 11, which is equal to 121. Again, multiple sections. For this, we're going to label these parts of the shapes A, we're going to label this B, and then we can label this C. So let's figure out A first. Let's do that up here. And if this is whole 15 centimeters, which means all of this should be 15 centimeters, let's highlight this. If this is 15, then that is 15 as well. Then to get our remaining thing, we have to do 15 minus 8, which makes this whole line 7 centimeters over here. Remember, they have to make up 15. So the whole area of A is going to be 5.5. So I like to label the shape so I don't lose track of what I've already found out. 5.5 multiplied by 15, which is equal to 82.5. So we found 1. Now we have to find out the area of B. And I'll highlight each shape we're finding, A, B. Now we need to find out this little length over here. So if we know this whole thing is 13 centimeters, we have 5.5 and 2. So that means this length is going to be 13 minus 5.5 minus 2. because remember, all of them together need to make 13 centimeters. So that means this little length is equal to 5.5 centimeters. That's over here. So this is 7, this is 5. So our area of B is going to be 5.5 multiplied by 7. That gives us 38.5. And then the next one we have to figure out is C. And we can highlight this just to make sure we're doing it systematically. We already have this side 2 and we have this side 15, so our area is simply 2 times 15, which is equal to 30. Our final area is everything added together, so it's 82.5 plus 38.5 plus 30, which gives us 151, which is our answer over here. So for 5, we don't have all the measurements, but that's okay because we do have a quicker way to do this. If we act like this chunk has been taken out, let's highlight this, from the original shape that is purely just 6 times 12, the whole shape, whole, is equal to 6 times 12, and that is 72 centimeters squared. So we're just treating this like a full rectangle. And then the chunk that's been taken out, chunk, let's just write that down, is equal to 3 times 2, which is equal to 6. So if this whole rectangle is 72, that means the entire, if the whole rectangle is 72, we need to take out this chunk, which is minus 6, and that is equal to 66 centimeters, which is the area of the following shape. So we have a similar principle here. I'm just going to draw in the diagram so that it makes more sense. If this whole thing is 12 centimeters, I'm gonna go like that just so you can see. And that means this little bit has to be 12 minus 2, which is 2 centimeters. And we know the depth of this, and remember, we're gonna label both shapes A and B. Imagine they're two like Lego pieces stuck together. So we're first finding the volume of A. The depth of this we know is this consistent, so the depth is 1.5. So the entire volume of this is going to be 1.5 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 5. This is depth times width times length. So that is equal to 15, because 1.5 times 2 is 3, 3 times 5 is 15. Now we have to find the volume of B. This one is easier to find out. We know that our length is 10. 10 times our width, or I guess what this is the width, this is the length, is 8 centimeters. We're going to multiply that by the depth, which is 1.5, and that gives us 120. Now the volume of the whole shape is going to be 120 plus 15, which is equal to 135. So for question 7, we have to first figure out the total area of the large boxes. And so the volume of the box is equal to 15 times 27 times 12. And that is equal to 4860, so 4,860. And now when we have these little wooden cubes, we need to also find out the volume of these. And since it's a cube, we know that the volume is just 3 cubed, which is equal to 9 centimeters squared. This should actually be 3 cubed is not 9. It is in fact 27 centimeters cubed. So it should be 27 centimeters cubed. And now to figure out how many of these little boxes fit into the big box, we must do 4860 divided by 27 centimeters cubed. These are both centimeters cubed, so you can cross out the units. We've checked they're consistent, and that gives us 180. So the diagram is helping us here that this is a cube of side 3 centimeters. And so if this is 3 centimeters, that means this is also 3 centimeters. So it's a cube, which is a very important piece of information, depth thing, and then this is 3 centimeters as well. So 3 cubed is equal to, so the volume is equal to 27 centimeters cubed. And if we have to figure out how many 1 centimeter cubes fit in that, the volume of that is equal to 1 times 1 times 1, which is equal to 1 centimeter cubes. So the fact that we're painting it red doesn't really have anything to do with the question. To figure out how many boxes we get, we just get 27 divided by 1, which is equal to 27 boxes. So for 9, I'm just going to do it over here so I have enough space. I'm going to again draw a diagram over here, like that. Actually, I just had to draw that again because it looked horrible. But the volume of the first one is equal to 18 times by 15 times by 24. Now we're just going to check all the units are the same. Yes, they are. We need to find out the volume of the first one to find out, we know the volume of the second one because they have the same volume. So this one is going to be 6,480. And if they have the same volume, that means the next one will be equal to 9 times 12 times x is equal to 6,480. So to find out the missing length, we know that this is equal to 108x is equal to 6,480. So to find 1x, we have to do 6,480 divided by 108, which is equal to 60. So just for question number 10, the whole volume is equal to 2 times 4 times x, which is equal to 64 centimeters cubed, which we have written over here. That means 8x is equal to 64. Therefore, x is equal to 8. The missing length is 8. So if you know, this is talking about cubes. So if you know your cubes well, then that means you will know that 4 squared is 64, and that's just a fact you end up knowing. So the cube has the same volume. I'm going to scroll down so you can see here. That means this is 4, and then the depth is also 4. Does it have the same volume? Yes, it does. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. So they have the same volume, tick. However, we're not done. We need to calculate the surface area of the cube. So 4 times 4, each surface is equal to 16. And how many faces does a cube have? It has 6 faces. So if 1 is equal to 16, then we have 16 multiplied by 6 faces, which is equal to 96, and that is the math section. So we are beginning a comprehension section for English, and this is a text. We're going to summarize it so the rest of the questions are a little bit more easier to contextualize. So this piece of text is about food trucks and the rising popularity of them. And it's basically talking about how you can get loads of different types of foods as good as sitting down in a restaurant, not the same as in the 1800s when all you could get were just sausages, pretzels, and hot dogs. So it's talking about the competition with restaurants and its presence in bigger cities to smaller cities, and talking about how the pros and cons of a food truck, basically, such as opening a restaurant since there are less overhead costs, as you see here, and the incentives of starting a food truck. So for question number 1, we're talking about why restaurant owners are not pleased about the rise of gourmet food trucks. So it's not talking about how food trucks offer more variety, because they do offer a lot of variety just on the sidewalk, but we need to talk about restaurant owners. Let's find restaurant owners in the text. I'm going to highlight this, and we can see that restaurant owners specifically don't like the competition that appears suddenly because of the lower prices due to lower overhead costs. So the only answer that's completely from the direct quote is food trucks pose a direct competition by offering similar food at lower prices. So C is the answer. So what the text really focuses on here for number 2 is that the appeal of the food trucks, it talks about the way it looks and serve. It talks about all these things, but it focuses on something in particular, which is, as you'll see here, the Middle Eastern falafel, Korean barbecue. So they are very limited to the food truck, and they are very exclusive. You can only get that from the food truck. So yes, it's quite exotic, but remember, there are restaurants selling the same thing. However, the appeal of food trucks is that they can offer something very limited and very exclusive at that moment. So the answer is C. So the passage does talk about the low overhead costs as seen before. So the food is cheaper. So this is definitely looking more like a solution. It's definitely not less convenient because the passage talks about how it can just park, it can change directions or where it's stationed for the day. People can just queue up and get their food. It's very easy. No one has to sit down, and people are eating from the food truck, so they are taken seriously. And that doesn't really talk about sanitation in the passage. So C is the answer. So this one is talking about the permits, and let's go back to here as to why are they told to hold permits. Because they wanted to, this whole paragraph is talking about restaurant owners not liking food trucks, and the city officials defend the traditional restaurant owners because they want to preserve local businesses. Therefore, using a direct quote from the text, the answer has to be C, protecting traditional restaurant owners from unfair competition. That paragraph does focus on competition as well. So the passage is talking about how non-traditional it is, and it doesn't really talk about how there's less sell of hot dogs and pretzels. You sort of need to generalize what the passage is talking about the impact. So this one's a bit too specific, talking about hot dogs and pretzels. B is looking most likely because food trucks are promoting a diverse and international food scene in cities, and it talks about the Middle Eastern falafel, the Korean barbecue right over here. And so B is looking most likely. And if anything, it talks about how they're not catering to wealthy people because their food is cheaper. And it doesn't talk about what times. It says that they can post up during lunchtime, but the most viable option that we can gather from the text is B. So this for question 6, the ban on cooking in vehicles is talking about trying to prohibit food trucks, the city officials, so that's not going to contribute to its popularity. And it doesn't really talk about being able to order food online. A direct quote from the text is that this is given as a reason for its popularity, but we can see that a direct quote from here is that diners can even track the whereabouts of food trucks over the internet. This is a contributing factor, but this is given in the opening paragraph as a reason for the popularity of food trucks. It's partly due to, question B. Solution B. There we go. Not C. We know that city officials, it says in the text, as we highlighted before, that they try to defend the interests of traditional restaurant owners, and they're not trying to promote it because it impacts the business in the city. City officials they don't have limited knowledge because they are putting bans in because they know what food trucks can do to their traditional restaurants. Therefore, it has to be B as the answer, as this is directly stated in the text. So for 8, there is no cooperation and collaboration. Restaurant owners generally do not like the food truck operators. They're talking about how it's not really expensive and gourmet because they're offering things at a lower price. Mainly it is to do with the increasing demand from customers for more upscale and diverse food options, as noted before with the really international food options. And A is definitely not the answer, because they said that city officials, it is very limited to get permits for food truck operators. The answer is C. So for this one, it doesn't really talk about the health consciousness or the sanitation, and it's not that they prefer gourmet food. The only one that the passage alludes to, and taking option D into account, there's nothing about food television shows, so we can cross that out. Mainly the most sensible answer is that it talks about the lower costs that they offer because of the low overhead costs, so C is the answer. So for number 10, it talks directly about, when we revisit, we did it for another question, so we're not going to go back, but it talks about the competition in attracting customers, whether it is with price, but it also talks about how food trucks can be situated at different places at specifically lunchtime. So a food truck can be closer to customers, whereas a traditional restaurant owner has to stay in the same place. Therefore, C is the only sensible option, and that's the comprehension section. We are starting the verbal reasoning section with question number 1, where we have to find odd one out. So from question number 1, a chair, desk, swing, vase, bench, I can see that these options are all something that you sit on. A vase is the only odd one out, because you can't sit on it, or you don't generally sit on it. So for this one, short, shorter, capture, capturer, blue, bluer, dirty, dirtier, fast, faster, I can see that all of these are comparative once you add the ER. You can have someone who's short, you can have someone who's shorter. However, with B, you can have someone who's capture, but capturer doesn't mean more captured, it's the person who captures. So B is the only one where adding the ER doesn't make it a comparative adjective. Over here, we have under as the preposition, because a preposition, what does it mean? It's a word that tells us where something is. So where is the book? Under the pillow. Option is D. For 24, we need to find out the missing code. So we've been given some words here. We have to find out the code for cream. So if we have two numbers in common here, we have 6 and 6, we have M and M. So we know that we need to have that this 6 is going to correspond to M. So we know that the word has to end in 6 because cream ends with an M, so we can cross out A, we can cross out D and E. And the next letter we have to find out is A. We have 2 A's in common here as the second letter, so we need to find out the only number that appears twice as the second letter is 8. Therefore, 8 is equal to A. So if we know that we have to end in 8, 6, our answer has to be B. For 25, we're going to draw a diagram. We have our diagram drawn. We are going to start off as position 1, where with B, since Brenda pays first and last. And so if we know that Fred has to be 2 spaces after Alan, not spaces, but 2 turns. So we have to put Alan somewhere between here and there. But we're going to put him over here because once we put in 1 turn, then 2 turns, then Fred, then we have space to put Cindy and David here. David sits directly across Cindy, but we have to put Cindy on this side because why? Because Cindy plays before Alina. So this is the only way that Cindy can play before Alina. Fred is 2 turns away, and then David is sitting across from Cindy. So therefore the penultimate player is Fred. So for this, we have to count the number of vowels in each of the months. So February is 1, 2, 3. February is 3. November is 1, 2, 3 again. October is 1, 2, 3 again. And then December is 3 again. The only one that doesn't have the same number of vowels is June. So for this one, let's write out the days of the week. I think that would help us. Monday, Tuesday, Which words are we getting out? N, D, and Y. Wednesday. Actually, we can honestly just take out the end because... Oh, wait, we're not taking out. Day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday. We're just going to go ahead and cross out all of the letters mentioned. D-Y, D-Y, D-Y. A is in every single one, so the answer definitely has to be A. Inside of it, the only one is B. We are going to order the digits 1 to 5 in order. Let's write them down. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. How many adjacent pairs are next to each other? Are in alphabetical order: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. So 1, 2. So these two are definitely going to be next to each other. Doesn't really matter what the next one is. So let's say these occupy the first 2 spaces. These occupy the second 2 spaces, and then we have this one lot. Actually, we have this one in the 3rd space, and then the last 2 spaces to this. So how many pairs do we have? Just 4 and 5, and just 2 and 3. So fewer than 3 pairs. So for 29, ascending order of number of consecutive double letters. So consecutive double letters is just the 1. Then we have 2 here, and then we have 3, 2, and 2. So 1 and 2. Oh, actually, we have 3 here. We have M, T, and E. So it has to be belly successful committee, which is C. We need to find the last anagram in this sentence. He found A. This has to be river. That's what it seems like the most. And river starts with the letter E, starts with the letter R. So option E. We have the NVR section. We're doing analogies, and so this first one, we see that this block over here goes above. This block here will go there, and then that means this black block will go up there, which means that we can cross out A and D. And if the black square is on the left, then it will go to the right. So white square on the left, it will go to the right, and the only one that is B. So if in the middle we have these lines that go together, so if these lines are further apart over here, then they'll come close together. So we have to cross out A. And then this bold black square will go to this side. Then this bold black square will go to this side. Therefore, we can cross out B. And then if the cross is in the bottom right, it shall go to the top left. So if it's in the top left, it shall go to the bottom right. Therefore, oh, actually, since we're going here, this cross stays in the same place but becomes a white square. This cross will stay in the same place but becomes a white square, so it has to be D. So over here we see that these 2 disjointed blocks do a 90-degree rotation anti-clockwise. Same thing will happen this way, so we'll have 2 blocks over here, which will cross out A, C, and D to leave us just with B. For question 4, if we have this vertical little shape here, then it will become vertical, so horizontal to vertical. So it doesn't actually specify which rotation it is, whether it's going this way or that way. So there are actually 2 options for this. We can cross out we can cross out A, and we can cross out B, because if you notice, this diagonal does stay in line with the diagonal, and this diagonal is going the other way, so you can cross out B. However, there are 2 options for this, C and D, because these are the same, but we don't know which direction this little leg is going. So for this one, these little shapes come to the inside, but they switch places. If they're on the horizontal, then they go on the vertical. So this white was here, now it ends up on the top. So what we have is this diagonal. If the white's on this diagonal, then it will end up on this diagonal. Therefore, the only one that could be is D. So all these shapes are made up of three different shapes. We can see that we can cut this one like this, actually, not like that. And then we've got the triangle, 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 triangle. That's in all of the shapes apart from B, which is the only one made up from two shapes. We don't have that extra triangle. So for all of this other shapes, we can see that this small white rectangle is always on the same side as this black rectangle. They're always together apart from A, where the white rectangle is separate. And then for 9, we can see that the shapes are interlocked, but they are opaque. You can't see through them. E is the only one where the two shapes are transparent. You can see the shape behind it, unlike these ones. So for 10, all these shapes you can rotate to look like each other. So if I focus on this little shape over here, which is it's just easy for me to see. If I rotate this way, it can look like that. It can look like this shape, and then if I rotate it again, it can look like this shape, and if I rotate it again, if you rotate it this way, it can look like this. However, this shape in E, there's no way you can rotate these shapes clockwise in order to look like the rest of them. Therefore, the answer is E.